Welcome to the Sci-Fi Evolution channel. In the vast tapestry of the galactic food chain, the Murdoch occupy a position of unparalleled dominance. With their muscular physique, sharp claws, and a coat of midnight black fur, they can seamlessly blend into the shadows. They are the kind of predators that even other predators fear, causing entire species to check under their beds before retiring. They charge exorbitant fees for their hunting expeditions, for when you are so skilled at killing, you do not do it for free. The dreadful clique, leader of the most dangerous hunting group in 3 star systems, sits on a ridge overlooking the crash site, his yellow eyes glowing with professional pride. He had seen many victims, including desperate Zairians trying to bargain for their lives, terrified Quellian diplomats offering huge amounts of loans, and even overconfident Martian colonists, thinking their fancy weapons would save them. But a man? This is something new. That's interesting. Humans are known for their unpredictability, but not for being particularly dangerous. They are notorious for their unpredictability. They can either surrender immediately or do something completely irrational beyond any tactical analysis. The name of the claw reported that the target had set up what looked like a temporary shelter. There was an emotionless note in his voice, which is typical of all experienced hunters when they describe their prey. A single man, unarmed, showing no signs of anxiety, despite the fact that he was aware of his situation. Big Click's ears twitched in surprise. There were no signs of distress. His ship turned into a crater, and he found himself on a planet without a rescue beacon. The person was either surprisingly calm in a stressful situation, or surprisingly stupid. In the clearing, the target was doing something that looked more like stupidity. Although the hunting group did not know his name at the time, Jake Morris tried to build a fire using the ancient human method of rubbing 2 branches together. It might have made an impression, if not for the fact that he was doing it about 3 feet away from a functioning emergency alarm device on the ship. "He's either a master of survival or completely clueless," muttered Crew, the leader of the group. "I can't say what it is, and it doesn't matter." Night Strike, their strategist, was already calculating the angles of attack. Regardless of whether it's dangerous or pathetic, mining is mining, and we haven't eaten in 6 days. This unpleasant truth, which none of us wanted to admit, was that the great Murdoch hunting group, the thunderstorms of the upper tribe, were running out of energy. The hunting business has been going through difficult times lately. Fewer and fewer wealthy clients are willing to pay to meet a real predator due to insurance liability and unjustified risk. It may seem to civilians that the disclaimer clearly states that they were eaten by predators of the highest category. But this man was different. It was a chance that fell right in their backyard. Finally, Jacob lit a fire and leaned back in his chair, feeling a sense of accomplishment, as if he had just completed an interstellar journey. He took out what looked like a primitive cooking kit and started humming something that could pass for music if he was generous. At that moment, Big Click's stomach rumbled so loudly that a small bird fell from a nearby tree. "Well," Jake said, trying to maintain his dignity, "we're having a feast tonight." What followed was a demonstration of predatory coordination, at least if anyone paid attention to it. The Murdoch hunting pack moved with the precision of a fine-tuned mechanism, each member of which entered into his role with practiced ease. The Talon beast began a ritual hunt, circling the perimeter to detect scent trails and possible escape routes. His massive paws moved silently through the undergrowth, a stealth skill honed over decades. He was a silent, invisible, and unstoppable 4-legged death force. The man threw a stick into the fire, missing by several feet to the left. The stick ignited a small grass fire, which the claws extinguished without making a sound that could be interpreted as a curse. "Professional assessment," a gloomy click whispered into their intercom. "This is the most sophisticated psychological warfare you've ever seen. The name of the claw? Or our target has an instinct for self-preservation, like a stunned ground squirrel," said Claus. Meanwhile, Crew braced himself for the attack, a mass of muscle and aggression, the result of evolution's decision that refinement was unnecessary. It was simple: act impressive and intimidating, and make sure that after the dust settles, nothing remains in place. Jake had never encountered a problem that couldn't be solved by attacking her with a loud roar. He moved on to trying to fix his communicator by hitting it on a rock, obviously demonstrating the extent of his technical competence. Krav reported that he had conflicting signals. Did he set up a trap, or did he sincerely believe that hitting the device on a rock was an effective repair method? Nak Yudar, true to her nature, analyzed the situation from different points of view. She saw patterns and weaknesses, the exact sequence of movements that would turn hunting into killing. These movements indicated a lack of combat training. The pose indicated a complete lack of understanding of the situation. The pulse seemed normal, which was actually a good sign. Jake had given up trying to interact with the device and was now examining what looked like a survival kit. He extracted various objects, studying them carefully with the same perplexity that is usually associated with complex mathematical concepts, stopping from time to time to examine them more closely. The hunters let out a few unhappy exclamations as they watched Jake sort through his supplies. "He seems to be able to handle everything," said Lisha Kogda. "According to standard survival protocol, we have to conserve food. But he seems to be handling everything like he's never seen emergency equipment before." Big Click thought about it. Perhaps he is not an experienced researcher. He could have been a civilian passenger who had just been brought here. That would explain his lack of survival skills. Or maybe he's just incredibly stupid. Stupid prey doesn't need complicated plans, Krav suggested with a hint of hope. When the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the clearing, the Morduk hunters realized that the time had come. The moment when their prey realizes that the hunting grounds are not just a picturesque wilderness, but a death trap designed for their entertainment. Jake took something out of his bag that made all 4 hunters stop in their tracks. It was food. Real, genuine food, not included in their survival supplies. It wasn't emergency rations or protein paste, but it felt like real food. The fragrance hit them like a freight train. This time, Grim Click's stomach didn't just growl. It literally roared a symphony of desperate hunger. "Plans are changing," he whispered to his pack, trying to ignore the saliva pooling in his mouth. "Let's see how he reacts to the food. For tactical reasons, not because we're starving. It's strategic patience." And so it really was. After watching the food for 30 minutes, the pack was ready to act. This usually happened in 2 ways: complete terror, followed by begging, or complete terror and brief resistance. Big Click was the first to step into the light of the campfire, as pack leaders always did. After all, it was part of their job. Jake looked up from his meal and blinked. "Oh, thank God. I was hoping you were the rescue team." There was such a deep silence that the smallest particles could be heard colliding. "I'm sorry," Mr. Click said, but his carefully prepared intimidation speech never took place. "The rescue team?" Jake repeated, as if that explained everything. "My ship's beacon went out when I crashed, and I've been here for 3 hours now, wondering if anyone got my distress signal. Are you from the Galactic Rescue Services? I have to say, your response time is impressive, but your form is a little scary." Jacob appeared out of the darkness, his face beaming with delight, as if he had just won the lottery. "Oh my God! There are more of you!" he exclaimed. "It's fantastic! I was afraid that I would have to spend the night here." Crew appeared from the other side of the clearing, letting out a low, menacing growl. Jake interpreted this as a greeting and said, "Wonderful! The whole team is here." Jake continued, "I hope you don't mind, but I just had dinner. A spare ration. You know how it is." He handed me a sandwich, which seemed to me to be a simple, unremarkable dish. The smell of food was better than anything the hunting pack had ever encountered in their lives. Nok Yudar, who prided herself on her ability to analyze any situation, felt her tactical computer shut down completely. "Is that him?" she whispered into the still air. "Offering us food?" "I think so," Mr. Click replied, still maintaining his imposing demeanor, struggling with the realization that his stomach was rebelling against his professional etiquette. "I know that you probably have rules against accepting food from civilians, but that's not really a problem. I took too much with me anyway. My mom always says I should share, and honestly, you guys look like you could use a good meal." This last remark struck a chord with the entire pack, and they exchanged glances. Somehow, Mark Click managed to convey a mixture of wounded pride and despair. He cleared his throat, trying to regain some semblance of authority, and began, "Human, you seem to be under some misapprehension about your current situation." "Really?" Jake asked, looking genuinely puzzled. "Oh no, don't tell me you're independent contractors," Mr. Click said, lowering his voice to a level that usually caused the victim to smear himself. "Please tell me that Galactic Services has no longer outsourced rescue operations." Jake processed this information and said, "So you're not from the rescue team?" Grim Fong said, "We are, not exactly what you might expect. We are the top predators, the top of the food chain, if you will. This world. We are the embodiment of death. We are your worst nightmare come true. We're hungry," Jake said helpfully. The words hung in the air like an accusation. "It's a very fair accusation. Because, seriously," Jake continued, "you all look like you haven't eaten in days. That one over there," he pointed at Crew, "is literally salivating. And you," he pointed at Mr. Click, "are rumbling so loudly in your stomach that I thought there was a small earthquake." Mr. Click's dignity has given the last rebuff. "We don't accept charity from our prey." "Prey?" Jake looked around the clearing, as if expecting to see another creature. "What kind of prey?" he asked. "It's just us here, unless you mean that strange bird that keeps chirping in the trees. But to be honest, it looks more like a nuisance than a potential dish." He held out a sandwich, a classic combination of peanut butter and jelly. "You should definitely try it before we solve this problem." So, a fearsome hunting pack from 3 star systems found themselves staring at a sandwich as if it contained the secrets of the universe. Subsequent events will go down in the history of the Muzzles, either as a moment of shame for their proud hunting tradition, or as the best dish they have ever tasted. The Big Click tried to assert its authority. "We are the ultimate predators," he said. "We don't share our food with our prey." Jake looked at him with genuine bewilderment. "I was puzzled. Are you guys playing? This whole predator story seems very convincing, but the timing is strange. If you're making a nature documentary, there should be cameras here, right?" I looked around the clearing, expecting to see the equipment. "Shouldn't someone mention this when I send my flight plan? I'm sure there are rules for using crash sites for entertainment purposes." Letvi Talons' stomach rumbled, which sounded like the last cry of a forgotten deity. Everyone in the clearing turned to look at him. With all possible dignity, he said, "Tactical analysis shows that in order to truly understand local customs, we must engage in direct cultural exchange." He added, "I'm serious. Are you seriously trying to justify taking food from prey?" Nightstrike hissed, "I'm scouting." He clawed back. "How can we know?" The predator's eyes widened as he examined the chips. Then he brought it closer to his face, examining it with great curiosity. Finally, he opened his mouth and put the chip on his tongue. A crunching sound filled the air, and the predator's eyes widened in surprise. Then he swallowed a chip, and a look of satisfaction appeared on his face. Jake watched in amazement as the predator enjoyed the taste of the chips. The predator's eyes sparkled with pleasure as he munched on a chip. Then he swallowed it, and a look of satisfaction appeared on his face. Jake watched in amazement as the predator enjoyed the taste of the chips. The predator's eyes sparkled with pleasure as he munched on a chip. Then he swallowed it, and a look of satisfaction appeared on his face. Jake watched in amazement as the predator enjoyed the taste of the chips. Imagine if we could collect information by sampling local food. "What is it?" he exclaimed. "I've just been asked about my favorite pastime, and I have plenty of options. Let me think about it." I rummaged through my backpack with the zeal of someone who has been alone for a while. I found a thermos filled with hot coffee. Thanks to its military-grade insulation, it has pieces of dried fruit that taste better than they should. There is also a trail mix with chocolate, which, in my opinion, is an ideal food product created by nature. I paused and looked at them seriously. However, I should probably ask about your dietary preferences. Are you carnivores or omnivores? Do you have allergies? I would feel terrible if I accidentally poisoned my first alien friends. "Alien friends," I said, trying to assimilate this new classification. "Well, you're not human, but you seem friendly." I got a little carried away with the Predator role-playing game, but everyone has their own interests. Hobby. I once knew a man who collected antique tax forms. So, who am I to judge? The flying claw approached the dish and began to study it with the intensity of a scientist studying a new species. "Coffee," he asked. "What is this hot liquid for?" "It's a stimulant," Jake replied. "It keeps you alert and helps you think clearly. It is necessary for any job. Here, take some." He poured a cup of coffee from his thermos and offered it to Lizaveta Claus. The aroma of the coffee was unlike anything I had ever tasted in the Morduksky Kabrik. It was rich and complex, with hints of distant worlds and sophisticated cooking techniques. Leslie Talons took a cautious sip, his eyes widening. "This drink," he declared with the seriousness of a man uttering a prophecy, "contains the essence of productivity." "It's the caffeine," Jake said cheerfully. "Wait about 10 minutes, and you will understand why people have conquered the world. The galaxy is divided into those who rely on coffee and those who feed on malice. At the moment, Big Fong is witnessing the complete collapse of the pack hierarchy. His subordinates consume alien food and seem to achieve the state of enlightenment their species has been striving for millennia through meditation and ritual battles. Perhaps they have discovered a new way to find inner peace, or perhaps they are simply rebelling against their leader," he said in a strained voice, trying to maintain his leadership while his stomach actively tried to rebel. "A small portion would only be enough for reconnaissance purposes. Do you understand?" Jake readily agreed. "Intelligence gathering is crucial. Here, try this sandwich first. This is a good starting point for exploring human cuisine." He offered half of his sandwich with the generosity of a man who didn't realize he was feeding predators. Mr. Click received him with the solemnity of a religious ritual. The first piece was a revelation for him, sweet and salty, with a texture that was both familiar and completely different. It was amazing, he realized with horror. "A combination of protein and carbohydrates," he said, trying desperately to sound scientific. "Detachment from impressions creates an efficient energy delivery system, and it tastes great," Jake added helpfully. "Peanut butter is obtained by crushing nuts, mixing them with oils and adding sugar. Jelly is a simple fruit jam, but sometimes simplicity is perfect." Night Strike calmly tasted the chocolate mixture and suddenly found herself looking at the chocolate chips with an expression that said that her worldview had just been challenged. She added cautiously, "This sweet component causes a pleasant neurochemical reaction." Jake explained that chocolate is technically a mild stimulant, but mostly it just enhances sensations, and people have been fascinated by it for centuries, as Noah Udar acknowledged. She looked embarrassed by her honesty, and the next 20 minutes were a cultural exchange workshop, if you can call it that. The pack, consisting of top predators, Raven, Lion Claws, Night Strike, and Grim Cleek tried to maintain their dignity by eating unhealthy food. Roof developed a sentimental attachment to potato chips. Leslie Cogda developed an addiction to caffeine. Night Strike conducted a thorough inspection of the food supplies of Jackie, and Mr. Click found himself in the extremely uncomfortable position of enjoying the best meal of his life. The human protagonist, Jacob, asked about their professions, as they were all formidable predators. He asked if they were park rangers, wildlife experts, or safety consultants. This question made the pack realize the absurdity of their situation, as they were not engaged in any of these activities. "I understand," he said, and there was understanding in his voice. "Well, I'm sure you're doing your best," he added in a sincere tone. "But it's obvious that you could use some help. If you ever need help, please do not hesitate to contact us. I am always ready to lend you a helping hand. I sympathize with your situation. I know it can be difficult. Budget cuts, administrative burdens, and politicians who don't understand the importance of environmental protection. I bet you're doing important work for a small fee." And that's how a frightened hunting pack discovered that their prey was abandoning them for poor working conditions. The silence that followed my observation was the kind that comes when someone steps on a landmine. They are still trying to assess the extent of the damage. Mr. Click stared at his coffee cup, as if it held the answers to questions he didn't want to ask. I continued, seemingly unaware of the crisis I had just created. I worked in corporate consulting before joining xenobiology research, and I've seen a lot of similar problems in organizations. Good people try their best to do a good job. I would like to discuss the wonderful work that you are doing with limited resources and without the support of management. I noticed a sandwich in your hand, and I want to use it as an illustration. You are undoubtedly professionals, as evidenced by your movements, coordination, and attention to detail. However, you are working in such a remote location, doing what I believe is an undervalued job, perhaps not receiving a decent salary for months, and managers are constantly pressuring you with indicators that do not reflect the real problems you face. Crew made a sound that could have been laughter or despair, but he started and then stopped, unable to finish his question. I know this because of my ability to recognize patterns. In addition, you all have the same view that I've already seen from research teams who are passionate about their work, but who are hampered by bureaucracy. Leslie Cogda, who was currently finishing his third cup of coffee, leaned forward, and his coffee cup trembled slightly. "Let's assume," he began carefully, "that in a hypothetical scenario, the work would involve less dependence on traditional conservation methods." "You mean something like culling?" Jake asked casually. "Indeed, I believe it could be a part of that," Night Strike replied. "Population management can sometimes require difficult decisions. I believe that you are the one who has to make difficult decisions when the ecosystem becomes unbalanced." Noxie almost dropped her concoction in surprise. "Is that okay with you?" she asked. "Listen, I'm a xenobiologist. I understand the dynamics of ecosystems. Sometimes it is necessary to take action." The Big Click has confirmed. The system, he added, has become a problem. There were fewer customers, he added, apparently deciding that honesty was the best approach. Stricter rules, competition from automated solutions. "Oh," Jake nodded understandingly. "A technological shift, a classic industry glitch. Let me guess, some corporation has developed drones or artificial intelligence systems that can do some of your work cheaper and faster. So now everyone thinks they don't need specialists anymore." Something like that was confirmed by Mr. Click. Jake emphasized the importance of profiling. One cannot simply apply a universal approach to biological systems. Each situation is unique, and each person reacts differently to stressful factors. Big Click found himself nodding in agreement. Corporate clients demand predictable results with minimal effort. They do not understand that effective population control requires careful preparation, environmental assessment, and psychological profiling. Unpredictable. You're not really known for consistently making decisions under pressure. However, in this case, I must admit, I wasn't particularly threatened by it. You don't quite fit the description of dangerous wildlife. Crew asked in an almost offended tone. Well, you're certainly predators, Jake said diplomatically. But you are also undoubtedly smart, sociable, and professional. Dangerous wildlife representatives usually do not engage in conversations or express concern about proper methodology. You look more like specialized contractors. Big Click felt something move in his chest, and it took him a moment to realize that it was relief. When was the last time someone called their job professional instead of monstrous? Jake continued, obviously reading their expressions with amazing accuracy. You guys are probably really good at what you do. You interfere with their work. That's where you'll come in handy. You can provide all these services and even more. Jake's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. He continued, imagine the possibilities. You could work with researchers in the field, helping them navigate unfamiliar territories, identify potential threats, and even help develop new research methods. It's a win-win situation for everyone involved. Les Talons nodded, his ears twitching in agreement. That's a great idea, Jake. You have a talent for problem-solving and a deep understanding of the environment. You could become a valuable collaborator for any research group. Jake smiled, pleased with the answer. Thank you, Lizvi Kogda. I appreciate your support. I'm excited about the possibilities this can open up for me. Leslie Claus smiled back. I'm sure you'll do well, Jake. You have the skills and the drive to succeed. Just keep working hard, and you'll get far. This conference, Nightstrike said slowly, is a chance for us to showcase our skills and knowledge. For us, this is a platform for sharing experiences and expertise with a community of like-minded people. This is a chance for us to meet other researchers and collaborators who share our passion for xenobiology. This is a chance for us to change the situation in the field of xenobiology. Will this open the doors for cooperation? Definitely. And I'm sure you have a wealth of knowledge about interspecies behavior that would surprise people. You could write articles, give speeches, and become renowned experts in your field. The blood was being methodically consumed by a bag of chips, clearly considering various possibilities. Nightstrike had that look that indicated she was deep in thought, making complex tactical calculations. Grimfong asked. 3 weeks later, the rescue ship, Scientific Aspiration, emerged from hyperspace over what was marked as an uninhabited nature reserve on their navigation charts. Warning: dangerous wildlife. Captain Rodriguez expected a simple rescue of the stranded xenobiologist. Instead, she was faced with a situation that would require multiple incident reports and a potential revision of first contact protocols. Dr. Jake Morris was sitting around a campfire with 4 of the largest predators a member of the rescue team had ever seen. He enthusiastically gesticulated with what appeared to be a coffee cup, while the predators took notes on primitive tablets. Jake was talking as the rescue team approached cautiously. The key to accurate data collection is to establish a baseline level of behavior before introducing any experimental variables. You can't just start stress testing without context. But what if subjects are naturally aggressive? Talon Blade, who was assigned as the person in charge of the records, asked. How can we establish a baseline without polluting the data with the presence of observers? That's a great question. Remote monitoring comes to the rescue here. But we need to find a balance between technological surveillance and direct sensor data. Your enhanced senses give you capabilities that most equipment cannot match. Nightstrike looked up from her notes. We thought about it. Our olfactory analysis can detect stress hormones, eating habits, and health conditions at distances that would not be possible with standard sensors. They are going to make a presentation at the Xenobiology Symposium next month. They are scheduled to speak at an academic conference. Their experience in behavioral analysis is truly remarkable, Jake continued enthusiastically. Grimfong has developed theories about interspecific stress response patterns that could revolutionize field research methods, and Nightstrike is working to assess environmental threats. I discussed Earth cuisine with them. They are fascinated by the idea of combining nutrition with improved taste. Talon Blade plans to write an article about the correlation between food satisfaction and research productivity. Claw Blade nodded enthusiastically, clearly spurred on by about 14 cups of coffee. Human cooking methods demonstrate a sophisticated understanding of neurochemical reward systems. It's truly amazing how we can use pleasure reactions to maintain maximum productivity over long periods of work. Captain Rodriguez looked around the camp, noting the scattered research materials, the makeshift kitchen, and what appeared to be a detailed schedule of conference presentations. "How did this happen? What is it?" she asked. "Oh, that's the whole story," Jake replied. "I crashed. They thought I was some kind of invasive species that needed to be controlled. We had lunch. It turned out that we have a lot in common professionally, and now we are business partners. Grimfong has agreed to provide research support and safety advice for my upcoming expeditions. We call it Superior Research Solutions," Grimfong added with a hint of pride. "Our preliminary business plan has identified a significant market for experienced guides who understand both scientific methodology and predator behavior. The communicator, although they do need some documentation to prove their qualifications, I believe their practical experience speaks for itself. Grimfong has a vast experience in managing ecosystems, spanning more than 2 decades, which is more than many academics can claim. We are particularly eager to explore the networking possibilities," Talon Blade said, his voice filled with enthusiasm and a touch of caffeine. Jake informed us that researchers from over 40 different systems will be attending the event, seeking field support and food vendors. Blood added. Jake also mentioned something called convention food, which apparently includes hot dogs and pizza. "We are conducting a systematic analysis of human recreational cuisine," Nightstrike said, looking up from her calculations. "Based on our preliminary market research, Superior Research Solutions could achieve sustainable profitability within 2 fiscal quarters, given reasonable client acquisition rates and overhead management," Jake said. "They are naturals at business planning. It turns out that hunting requires many of the same skills as project management: risk assessment, resource allocation, timeline coordination, and client relationship management." "Client relationship management?" Captain Rodriguez asked. "Well, they used to have clients who hired them for specialized services," Jake explained tactfully. "However, the market has shifted towards more sustainable practices, and now they are transitioning their expertise into research assistance and educational consulting." Jake mentioned that he is working on developing a curriculum for practical predator studies. Most xenobiological programs teach predator behavior from a theoretical point of view, but these experts have practical experience that cannot be found in textbooks. Grimfong cleared his throat and mentioned the publishing possibilities. He believes that their field observations can contribute to several peer-reviewed articles, starting with threat assessments based on factory data in multi-species environments. Talon Blade added that the preliminary data is very interesting and may lead to nutrition optimization for further research. "This is going to be a game changer," Blood said, holding up a bag of chips. Captain Rodriguez realized that she was witnessing something that might require a complete oversight of the Starfleet protocol for dealing with unusual first contact situations. Dr. Morris said slowly, "Are you asking for transportation for everyone? If so, we need to get to the meeting, and I promise to help you prepare the presentation materials. Plus, Grimfong needs to practice public speaking, and Nightstrike wants access to a good research database for his citations. Grimfong explained, "Public speaking is different from field operations. Jake is helping us adjust our briefing methods for civilians. The key is to focus on methodology and results, not operational details." Nightstrike added, "That's right, Jake. We need to emphasize our findings and methods, not just the details of our work." Captain Rodriguez glanced at her rescue team, who were all watching with a mixture of surprise and admiration. Her communications officer was discreetly recording everything, probably for the inevitable investigation. "Well," she said, "I guess we have room for extra passengers. However, I must warn you that the ship's cuisine will not be as innovative as what you have tried here." Blood replied cheerfully, "It's okay. Jake packed extra supplies for the trip. We intend to conduct a comparative study of various methods of preserving human food during the journey," added Talonblade. "Moreover, Jake promised to teach us something called cooking shows. Apparently, people have entire entertainment programs dedicated to cooking techniques." Nightly Strike Solemon stated, "This is a study." Captain Rodriguez appreciated the importance of studying human culture and culinary traditions for her mission. She acknowledged that gaining knowledge about various food preservation methods and cooking techniques would allow her team to seamlessly integrate into human society upon arrival on Earth. Cultural perspectives on nutrition can help research groups meet diverse dietary needs. While the rescue team was assembling the camp, Captain Rodriguez observed a kind of professional cooperation. Jake was demonstrating conference presentation software to a group of apex predators who were taking notes like graduate students. The predators shared their field observation methods with a xenobiologist, who treated their experience as valuable professional knowledge. "You know," she told her first mate, "I have a feeling this is going to be an exciting journey." Behind them, Grimfong was rehearsing his opening speech. "Hello, my name is Grimfong, and I am a senior field specialist at Higher Research Solutions. Today I will present our work on the practical application of advanced sensory analysis in field research of extraterrestrial biology." Jake played along. Enthusiastically, "That's fine. But maybe you could try smiling when you introduce yourself. Academic audiences tend to respond well to accessible presentations." "A smile?" Grimfong seemed to find this a difficult human social protocol. "But don't worry. By the time we arrive at the conference, Jake says you guys will be the most sought-after research consultants in 3 star systems, and from what Captain Rodriguez has seen, she's starting to believe he might be right."